In the bustling heart of Chicago, where skyscrapers cast long shadows over the streets, 16-year-old Ellie Harper walked with a purpose that belied her worn-out sneakers. Her shoes, patched with duct tape, squeaked against the pavement as she carried a small, tattered backpack. Inside it were her treasures, a half-eaten apple, a crumpled notebook filled with stories she'd written, and a single photograph of her mother, faded but precious. Ellie was homeless, a fact she hid with a bright smile and quick wit. Her mother had passed away 2 years ago, leaving her to fend for herself in a city that didn't care. She spent her days scavenging for food, dodging social workers, and finding shelter in alleyways or under bridges. But Ellie wasn't just surviving, she was dreaming. She dreamed of a day when she'd have a warm bed, a full stomach, and a story to tell the world. Every morning, Ellie would sit outside Sterling Enterprises, a towering glass building owned by Michael Sterling, one of Chicago's wealthiest CEOs. The building was a symbol of everything Ellie didn't have: wealth, security, power. But she wasn't there to beg. She was there to watch. Every day she saw Michael Sterling step out of his sleek black car, his face etched with a quiet sadness. And every day she saw a boy, about her age, sitting in the back seat, staring blankly out the window, never speaking, never smiling. The boy was Nathan Sterling, Michael's only son. Rumors swirled around Chicago's streets. Nathan hadn't spoken a word in years, not since a tragedy no one dared to mention. Doctors, therapists, specialists. Michael had tried everything, but Nathan remained silent, locked in a world of his own. Ellie didn't know why she was drawn to Nathan's story. Maybe it was the way his eyes mirrored her own loneliness. Maybe it was the stories she wrote in her notebook, tales of heroes who overcame impossible odds. Or maybe it was just hunger, pure, gnawing hunger, that pushed her to do something unthinkable one chilly autumn morning. Ellie hadn't eaten in 2 days. The half-eaten apple in her backpack was long gone, and her stomach growled as she sat on the curb outside Sterling Enterprises. She watched as Michael Sterling stepped out of his car, his tailored suit pristine, his face weary. Nathan followed, his movement slow, his eyes fixed on the ground. Ellie's heart raced. She didn't know what possessed her, but she stood up, brushed the dirt off her jeans, and marched toward Michael Sterling. The security guard at the entrance raised an eyebrow, but Ellie's confidence, or desperation, carried her forward. "Mr. Sterling," she called out, her voice cutting through the morning bustle. Michael turned, startled. His eyes narrowed as he took in the sight of her. A skinny girl with tangled brown hair, wearing a threadbare jacket and shoes that barely held together. "Who are you?" he asked, his tone sharp but curious. "My name's Ellie," she said, standing taller. "I see you and your son every day. I know he doesn't talk. I can help him. If I make him speak, will you give me leftovers? Food, I mean. Whatever you don't need." The words spilled out before she could stop them. A few passers-by stopped to stare, and the security guard took a step closer. Michael Sterling blinked, then let out a short, incredulous laugh. "Leftovers? You think you can do what the best doctors in the country couldn't? Kid, go home." "I don't have a home," Ellie said quietly, her eyes steady. "But I'm not lying. I can try. Just give me a chance." Michael's laughter faded. He studied her, his expression softening just a fraction. Maybe it was her honesty, or maybe it was the desperation in her voice, but something made him pause. "You're serious," he said, almost to himself. "Dead serious," Ellie replied. Michael glanced at Nathan, who stood silently by the car, oblivious to the conversation. He sighed, rubbing his temples. "Fine. 1 hour. You get 1 hour with him. If you waste my time, you're out. And no leftovers unless he says something." Ellie's heart leaped. Deal. Ellie was led to a sleek conference room on the 40th floor of Sterling Enterprises. The room was bigger than any place she'd ever slept in, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Chicago skyline. Nathan sat at the far end of a long mahogany table, his hands folded, his eyes fixed on a spot on the floor. Michael stood by the door, arms crossed, watching like a hawk. Ellie took a deep breath and sat across from Nathan. "Hi," she said softly. "I'm Ellie. I don't know if you can hear me, but I'm going to tell you a story, okay?" Nathan didn't move, didn't blink. But Ellie didn't let that stop her. She pulled out her crumpled notebook and opened it to a page she'd written months ago, a story she'd never shared with anyone. It was about a boy who lived in a world of silence, where words were trapped like birds in a cage. Once upon a time, she began, her voice steady despite her nerves, there was a boy named Sam. He lived in a forest where no one spoke because the trees stole their voices. But Sam wasn't like the others. He didn't want to be quiet forever. So he started listening, not to words, but to the world. The wind, the river, the heartbeat of the earth. And one day he found a song inside him, a song so strong it broke the tree's spell. As Ellie spoke, she poured her heart into the story. She described Sam's loneliness, his fear, and his quiet courage. She didn't know if Nathan was listening, but she kept going, her voice rising and falling like a melody. She talked about Sam finding a friend, a girl who believed in him, who saw the song in his heart, even when he couldn't. Halfway through, Ellie glanced at Michael. His arms were still crossed, but his eyes were softer, almost glistening. She turned back to Nathan, who still hadn't moved. But then something small happened. His fingers twitched just slightly, as if reaching for something invisible. Ellie kept going, her story weaving hope and heartbreak. She didn't notice the time passing, didn't notice Michael stepping closer, didn't notice the security guard peeking through the door. All she saw was Nathan, and all she felt was the story. As Ellie reached the climax of her story, Sam singing his song to free the forest, her voice cracked with emotion. She wasn't just telling a story anymore. She was telling her story, her pain, her hope. Sam didn't know if anyone would hear him, she said, tears welling in her eyes. But he sang anyway, because sometimes you have to speak, even if it's just a whisper, even if it's just to say you're still here. The room fell silent. Ellie's heart pounded. She looked at Nathan, expecting nothing, but then slowly, impossibly, Nathan's lips parted. Ellie, he whispered. The word was soft, barely audible, but it hit the room like thunder. Michael gasped, stumbling forward. Nathan, did you just... Nathan's eyes, still fixed on Ellie, flickered with something new. Your story, he said, his voice hoarse from years of silence. It's like mine. Ellie froze, her breath catching. Michael rushed to Nathan's side, kneeling beside him, tears streaming down his face. Nathan, oh my God, you're talking. Nathan didn't look at his father. He kept his eyes on Ellie, a small, hesitant smile forming. Sam. He was brave. I want to be brave. Ellie's tears spilled over, but she smiled back. You already are, Nathan. Michael was a man of his word, but he gave Ellie far more than leftovers. That evening, he invited her to his home, a sprawling mansion on the outskirts of Chicago. Ellie, still in her tattered clothes, felt out of place among the chandeliers and marble floors. But Michael didn't care. He sat her down at a table laden with food, warm bread, roasted chicken, fresh fruit, more than she'd seen in years. As she ate, Michael told her Nathan's story. 3 years ago, Nathan's mother had died in a car accident. Nathan was in the car, unharmed but traumatized. He stopped speaking that day, retreating into a world no one could reach. Michael had spent millions on treatments, but nothing worked, until Ellie. You did something I couldn't, Michael said, his voice thick. I don't know how, but you reached him. Ellie shrugged, her mouth full of mashed potatoes. I just told him a story. Michael smiled, a real smile this time. You gave him hope, that's more than money can buy. Over the next few weeks, Ellie became a regular visitor at the Sterling home. She told Nathan more stories, and he started talking more, sharing bits of his own world. They became friends, 2 kids who'd both lost something but found each other. Michael, true to his word, didn't just give Ellie food. He offered her a place to stay, a chance to go back to school, and a laptop to write her stories. But Ellie never forgot where she came from. She started volunteering at shelters, sharing her stories with other kids who felt lost. She told them about Sam, about Nathan, about a girl who dared to ask for leftovers and ended up with a family. A year later, Ellie's YouTube channel, Ellie's Stories, had thousands of subscribers. Her videos, narrations of her heartfelt tales, resonated with people across the USA, from Chicago to California. But her favorite moments weren't the views or the likes. They were the afternoons she spent with Nathan, now 17, who was writing stories of his own. One day, as they sat in the Sterling's garden, Nathan handed her a notebook. I wrote something, he said, his voice stronger now. It's about a girl who saves a boy with her words. Ellie laughed, wiping a tear. Sounds like a good story. It is, Nathan said, smiling. It's ours. And so, the girl with the tattered shoes and the boy who didn't speak became each other's heroes, proving that sometimes the smallest voices can make the loudest impact.